Hi and welcome to this video. This is the second part of the video of the lesson on arrays in Java. As part of the earlier video, we have seen how to create an array variable, how to display the elements in an array, and how to modify the elements in an array. As a part of this video, we will have a look at two examples. The first example is used to find out the position of an element in an array. The logic used to do this is that suppose I need to find out the position of the element 14. I will try to compare the value of the element at each position to 14. If the value equals 14, I will display that the number 14 is at this index. Let us try to work through the code. Initially, I try to create an array variable called numbers that has the 5 numbers 10, 45, 76, 14 and 7. I use a variable called index variable and assign it to 0. This is used to run through the elements in the array. We are using a while loop to run through each element of the array, starting it at index 0 and going on until it reaches index 4. At each stage, I am comparing the value of the element in the array to 14. If the value equals 14, the position is displayed as the number 14 is at index, followed by the index variable. But if the number is not equal to 14, nothing is done, and we just proceed to the next element in the array. Let us go to the next example, which is sorting an array. Sorting is the process of arranging or ordering the elements so that they adhere to a certain sequence. Sorting the numbers happens in one of the two orders, namely an increasing or an ascending order and a decreasing or a descending order. Suppose I have an array that has 3 elements 15, 10 and 12. To sort this in ascending order means to arrange the array such that the numbers are 10, 12 and 15. Let us try to understand the logic of how to do it. Starting from the first element, the element at each position is compared to all of the elements to its right. If the element to the right is lesser, the two numbers are swapped. Let us consider the example of the array 15, 10 and 12. To start with, the element at the first position, that is position 0, is compared to all of the elements to its right. Firstly, position 0 is compared to position 1, that is 15 is compared to 10. As 15 is greater, it should appear farther in the array. Thus, 15 and 10 are swapped. The array which was 15, 10, 12 now becomes 10, 15, 12. This is the first step. As part of the next step, the element at position 0 is compared to the element at position 2. That is, 10 is compared to 12. But as 10 is lesser than 12, they are in the right order, so nothing is done. Now, position 0 has been compared to all of the elements to its right. The next step is to go to position 1. Now, 15 is compared to all of the elements to its right. But as there is only one element, position 1 is compared to position 2. As 15 is greater than 12, it should appear farther in the array. Thus, 15 and 12 are swapped. If you observe, at the end of all these steps, the array has been sorted in the ascending order. The array now is 10, 12, 15 and thus has the values in ascending or an increasing order. Let us try to achieve this logic with a Java code. This technique of performing the sort is called as bubble sort. If you look at the example, in line number 6, we are creating an array called numarray and storing the numbers 15, 10 and 12. We are using 3 variables, namely index 1, index 2 and index 3. Index 1 and 2 are used as a part of sorting the array and index 3 is used to run through the elements of the sorted array to print them. In temp, we are using a temporary variable to perform the sorting operation. The logic that is used here in swapping the two numbers is that for swapping two numbers a and b, we are going to use a temporary number or a temporary variable. The value of a is copied to the temporary variable. The value of b is copied to a. And the value of a, that is the old value of a, which was stored in the temporary variable, is now copied to b. Thus, at the end of the process, the values of a and b are swapped. This is the reason of using a temporary variable to help us with the swapping operation. Now, if you observe, there are two while loops, one here and the other one within the while loop. That is, we have a loop which is nested inside another loop. The first loop is used to keep track of each position one by one, and the next loop which is inside it is used to keep track of all the elements to the right of it. So if the first loop has the track of the first position 15, the inner loop will have a track of all the numbers to its right, namely 10 and 12. Let us start the loop. Initially, index 1 is assigned to 0, so it points to 15. Index 2 must point to the element to its right. Thus, index 2 is assigned the value index 1 plus 1. The values of both these numbers are compared. If the values are not in order, that is, if the first element is greater than the second element, they are swapped using a temporary variable. This process repeats itself until each position has been compared to all of the positions to its right. At the end of this process, the array would have been sorted in ascending order. Finally, we are using a third variable called index 3 to run through the elements of the sorted array. As a part of this lesson, let us try to do an exercise. With the earlier sorting program as an example, let us try to write a program that sorts an array in descending order. The hint here is that for ascending order, we swapped the numbers if the first element was larger than the second. But for descending order, we will swap the numbers if the first element is smaller than the second. So thus, as a part of our earlier program, we just need to change the condition of the if statement. Try to do that and observe the change in output. There is another activity. This sorting technique that we use here is called bubble sort. Try to find out what other sorting techniques are available. You do not have to write an implementation, just try to understand the various other techniques that are available. Let us go to the second exercise, which is to write a program that identifies the minimum element in the array and displays it. The hint here is to use a variable that stores the minimum element. While we iterate through each element of the array, we are checking if the value at the current position is smaller than the min value. If the value is smaller, we are assigning that value to min value. Try to write a code that achieves this. To summarize this lesson, we have had a look at the two examples of working with arrays, namely finding the position of an array element and sorting an array. As a part of our next lesson, we will have a look at what methods in Java are. Thank you.